President Obama must have asked his security folks, like, what's the, like, I mean, how certain are you guys about this information? And I think from what I remember watching, it was something like 30%. So even percent saturation isn't necessarily right. 30% isn't high at all. It's not a high number to be like, well, it's a 30% likelihood that he might be there. So it's not a science. It's not science to that extent. There has to be a lot of intuition, a lot of gut feeling, which, you know, for me personally, I'm not going to disclose too much, that's a good gut. That's a good gut reaction to be like, no, you know, 30% isn't high, but I feel like, you know, that's the spot, that he's there. Let's do it. I can't say I would have made the same call, which is precisely why I'm not the president, nor do I have any interest in being that guy. You're putting a lot on the line by making an attempt to mobilize forces on a 30% likelihood. But the idea is, from a theoretical standpoint, you got to be safer, right? You have to be safe. I have to play the game safer, because a 30% likelihood isn't going to be enough without really good intuitive feeling, which you can't write about. You just feel it. You know, to mobilize forces in an aggressive posture, right? It's not going to be enough. So the question then becomes of percentage, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, there is no proper exact formula. This is exactly what I'm saying, right? There is no proper exact formula, nor could there ever be, right? There's no means to even conceptually articulate what that might be, because so much of it pertains to experience. If the general's been in field, in battle for 3 years, and the general says, I don't care what your satellite technology tells me, I feel like it's there, how are you going to undermine his experience in field? His experience trumps everything, for the most part. Now, if he puts it all on the line and he's wrong, then he's going to have to be held accountable for that. But the idea is, there is an aspect of human agency here, right? In both the assessment of threat and the actual threat itself, right? You can't, there's not even an assessment. It is human agency. We're talking about people interacting with people. These systems are constructed to make ourselves more powerful, to introduce and impose intent and will in the world. But it's all, when you boil down to it, people. It's all people. Last paragraph then, and I'm running out of time here. I'm already over an hour. The reference to the Cheney Doctrine, listen to this quote. Quote, the Cheney Doctrine proposed that a condition of almost perfect ignorance, 1% of knowledge, would be the basis for action. That's a huge problem, right? And this is the author, this isn't me. Note, the attempt to either justify the use of the Cheney Doctrine or refuse its use without context is to devalue the significance of, this is really technical, significance of context. I'll explain this. The importance is not one of ethics, but one of appropriate action given the circumstance and the consequence of inaction. Very technical. Let me explain what this means. The idea is this. Action would be legitimized, according to the author's interpretation. Action would be legitimized with respect to almost perfect ignorance. Perfect ignorance being 0%. Absolute knowledge being 100%. At 1%, which is close to perfect ignorance, action would be legitimized. The argument is that is unacceptable. The inference, the author doesn't say this explicitly, but the inference is that is unacceptable because there isn't enough theoretical, rationalistic support for action. There isn't enough rational, theoretical justification for action at 1%. I agree with that. I would also caution people to be careful about sort of this attempt to deal with statistics, right? Because it's all fuzzy. And I don't mean fuzzy in a logical sense. I mean, you have success where you have the commander-in-chief saying that he made a decision, irrespective of whatever the intelligence community did. The final call rests on his shoulders. He made a decision to make a move and get Osama bin Laden with 30 to 40%. Now, really, what's the demarcation between, I mean, I give grades for a living. 1% and 40%, 1% and 30%, they're both Fs. One's a worse F than another F, but they're both Fs. To make a move on that percentage is complicated. So for me, what I would do theoretically is protect against this threshold ambiguity and make my system function independent to that. So it's awesome what the author did by sort of bringing this Cheney Doctrine up of sort of the justifiability of action based on near perfect ignorance. I would introduce that idea, as he just did, then I would introduce the idea of the Osama bin Laden raid to argue for some relevance in this. There is some legitimacy in the Cheney Doctrine, as much as people would think, I can't believe you're actually defending that. The idea is, a lot of it is intuitive. A lot of it is inferential. And what I would want to do is to remove all of that intuitive bit from the theoretical analysis, recognizing that when there is a need for a general, a commander-in-chief, who have you, policymakers, to make a decision that they can't reference theory immediately, they're going to make that decision. So there's no need for us to address that, right? Hour 5. So I'm going to stop there before my battery dies. I want to thank... Wait, I'm not going to stop right now. So yeah, I'm going to pause. No, I'm going to stop because that's the end of the section. So that's the end of section 2.0. In the next installment, I'll start section 2.1. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell. Have a good day.